The starship Celestial Voyager trembles as 5 alien sisters fight over who gets to study human anatomy. Joseph Grant, lead xenobiologist, finds himself at the center of this interstellar incident as alarms blare throughout the ship. The Tok sisters, with their iridescent skin and piercing gaze, corner him in his lab. "I claimed this human as my research subject," Jada, the eldest, declares. Her telepathic abilities press against Joseph's mind, threatening to overwhelm him. The ship shudders again as the other sisters converge on the lab. Kira, the second eldest, bursts through the door. "You can't have him all to yourself, Jada. We agreed to share our findings." Lumi, Naya, and Zoe follow close behind, their faces contorted with a mix of scientific curiosity and sibling rivalry. The lab, once a sanctuary of human discovery, now becomes a battleground for alien desires. Captain Sarah Mitchell's voice crackles over the intercom. "All personnel, arm yourselves and prepare for potential combat. We have intruders on board." Joseph's heart races. The Celestial Voyager, Earth's first deep space exploration vessel, now finds itself in a first contact situation gone horribly wrong. The mission to establish a human presence beyond the solar system has become a desperate struggle for survival. The Tok sisters, daughters of their species' High Council, had chosen this moment to intercept the human ship. Their advanced vessel had appeared seemingly out of nowhere near the edge of the solar system, quickly overpowering the Celestial Voyager's defenses. "We've observed your kind long enough," Naya hisses, her eyes locked on Joseph. "It's time we conducted a proper examination." Joseph's mind reels. The Tok, an advanced race of humanoid aliens, had been watching Earth? For how long? And why choose now to make contact? Zoe, the youngest sister, pushes forward. "Our people believe you've reached a sufficient level of technological advancement. We're here to verify that claim." Their approach, aggressive and invasive, demonstrates a clear power imbalance between the two species. Joseph realizes the fate of humanity may rest on his ability to navigate this bizarre and potentially dangerous situation. "Ladies, please," Joseph manages to say, his voice steadier than he feels. "We can approach this scientifically, without resorting to force." Lumi scoffs. "Force is precisely what's needed here. How else will we determine the limits of human physiology?" The sisters' argument escalates, threatening to turn physical. Joseph's mind races, searching for a way to assert humanity's strength and independence, while also satisfying the Tok scientific curiosity. He must do this without compromising his own safety or dignity, all while the lives of his crewmates hang in the balance. As the aliens bicker, Joseph catches a glimpse of his reflection in a nearby monitor. He sees fear in his eyes, yes, but also determination. He is a scientist, an explorer, a representative of humanity, and now he must become a diplomat. "Sisters of the Tok," Joseph interrupts, his voice cutting through their quarrel. "You wish to study human anatomy? Then let me propose a compromise that will satisfy all of your scientific needs." The Tok turn to him, their iridescent skin shimmering with interest. In this moment, Joseph knows his next words will shape the future of human-alien relations. The encounter sets the stage for a complex interplay of power, desire, and scientific discovery that will challenge Joseph's understanding of both alien and human nature. As alarms continue to blare and the crew of the Celestial Voyager prepares for a fight, Joseph takes a deep breath. He's about to embark on the most important negotiation of his life, one that could determine the fate of two species. Joseph's words hang in the air, heavy with the weight of their importance. The Tok sisters pause, their iridescent skin shimmering with curiosity and anticipation. Before Joseph can elaborate on his proposal, the lab suddenly fills with a low hum. A shimmering energy field materializes around the room's perimeter, effectively trapping them inside. What's happening?" Zoe asks, her voice tinged with alarm. Joseph recognizes the telltale signs of the ship's advanced defense systems. Captain Mitchell must have initiated emergency protocols. He feels a mix of relief and apprehension, knowing that while help might be on the way, the situation has just become even more volatile. "It appears we're contained," Joseph says, careful to keep his voice calm and steady. Now, about that compromise I mentioned, Jada's eyes narrow. You've trapped us, she hisses, her telepathic abilities pressing against Joseph's mind with renewed vigor. Joseph winces but stands his ground. Not me. This is likely our captain's doing, but it doesn't change what I'm proposing. You want to study human anatomy? Let's approach this scientifically with respect for both our species. He takes a deep breath, formulating his thoughts. I suggest we divide our study into specialized areas. Each of you can focus on a different aspect of human biology. This way, you'll all contribute equally to the research, and we can maintain a structured, ethical approach. The sisters exchange glances, their competitive nature temporarily overridden by scientific intrigue. Jada, sensing an opportunity, steps forward. An intriguing proposal, human, she says, her voice carrying an air of authority. I propose we accept these terms. I shall focus on the nervous system and brain function. I claim the cardiovascular system, Kira interjects quickly. Muscular and skeletal structure for me, Lumi adds, her eyes gleaming with interest. Naya and Zoe voice their preferences for the respiratory and digestive systems, respectively. Joseph nods, relieved that his suggestion has momentarily diffused the tension. As the sisters discuss the specifics of their research areas, Joseph's mind races. He knows he needs to buy time for the crew to formulate a rescue plan while also gathering as much information as possible about the Tak-Tak. Before we begin, Joseph says, I'd like to learn more about your species as well. It's only fair that this exchange of knowledge goes both ways. Lumi, her interest piqued, steps closer to Joseph. What would you like to know, human? Joseph seizes the opportunity, engaging Lumi in a discussion about Tak-Tak biology and their homeworld's ecosystem. As they talk, he carefully observes the sisters' behavior, noting subtle differences in their mannerisms and abilities. Meanwhile, outside the lab, the Celestial Voyager buzzes with activity. Captain Sarah Mitchell stands on the bridge, her face etched with concern as she receives updates from various departments. Status report, she demands, her voice crisp and authoritative. Security Chief Marcus Rodriguez steps forward. The energy barrier is holding, Captain. Dr. Grant and the aliens are contained within the lab. We're working on a rescue plan, but what, Chief? Rodriguez hesitates. We've detected another Tak-Tak vessel approaching, much larger than the first. We believe it might be reinforcements. Captain Mitchell's eyes sharpens. She turns to the communications officer. Any response from Earth? Yes, Captain. United Space Command has detected the approaching vessel. They're demanding an immediate update on our situation. The captain takes a moment to process this information. The stakes have just gotten higher, and she knows her next decisions could have far-reaching consequences for human-alien relations. Chief Rodriguez, what's our best option for extracting Dr. Grant? Rodriguez straightens. We've been analyzing the alien's physiology, Captain. Aria has detected unusual energy signatures from the sisters. We believe their telepathic abilities may be linked to a specific organ or energy source within their bodies. He pauses, then continues. We propose using the ship's experimental phase shift technology to bypass the energy barrier and extract Dr. Grant. It's risky. We've never tested it on living organisms, but it might be our best shot. Captain Mitchell weighs the options, her mind racing through potential outcomes. The risks are significant, but leaving Joseph in the alien's custody is not an option. Prepare the phase shift device, she orders, but keep it as a last resort. I want alternative options on my desk in the next 30 minutes. As the crew springs into action, Joseph continues his delicate balancing act in the lab. He's managed to establish a rapport with Lumi, who seems genuinely fascinated by his knowledge of Earth's biodiversity. Your planet's variety of life forms is truly remarkable, Lumi says, her eyes wide with wonder. Perhaps we've been too hasty in our approach. There's much we could learn from each other. Joseph nods, encouraged by this shift in perspective. Exactly. Cooperation and mutual respect will yield far better results than forced examination. As he speaks, Joseph notices a faint pulsing beneath Lumi's skin, near her temple. He recalls the unusual energy signatures Aria had detected earlier. Could this be the source of their telepathic abilities? Before he can ponder this further, Jada interrupts. Enough talk. It's time we began our examinations. The other sisters murmur in agreement, their earlier compromise giving way to impatience. Joseph feels the pressure of their combined focus, knowing he's running out of time. Suddenly, a new voice crackles over the ship's intercom. Attention, Celestial Voyager. This is Admiral Cora of the Tak High Council. We demand you release our daughters immediately. Failure to comply will result in severe consequences. The lab falls silent as the gravity of the situation sinks in. Joseph looks at the Tak sisters, seeing a mix of defiance and uncertainty on their faces. He realizes that the next few moments could determine not just his fate, but the future of human-alien relations. As alarms blare and tensions rise, Joseph takes a deep breath. He knows he must find a way to bridge the gap between the two species, to turn this potential disaster into an opportunity for understanding and cooperation. With the weight of two civilizations on his shoulders, he prepares to make his next move. The weight of the moment hangs heavy in the air as Joseph searches for the right words to diffuse the volatile situation. Before he can speak, a realization strikes him like a bolt of lightning. The subtle differences he's observed in the sisters' behavior, the unusual energy signatures Arya detected, and the pulsing beneath Lumi's skin near her temple. It all points to a startling conclusion. Wait, Joseph says, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I think I understand why you're really here. It's not just about studying humans, is it? You're facing a genetic crisis. The sisters freeze, their iridescent skin flickering with a range of emotions. Jada's eyes narrow, but Lumi's widen with surprise and a hint of hope. How could you know that? Lumi asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Joseph takes a deep breath, knowing he's on the brink of a crucial breakthrough. The variances in your telepathic abilities, the urgency of your mission, the focus on human physiology, it all points to a species grappling with genetic instability. The lab falls silent as the Tak sisters exchange meaningful glances. Even the alarms seem to fade into the background as the gravity of this revelation sinks in. Suddenly, the ship's intercom crackles to life once more. This time, it's Captain Sarah Mitchell's voice that fills the room. Dr. Grant, Tak visitors. This is Captain Mitchell. I'm initiating direct communication with the lab. We need to talk. Joseph feels a surge of relief at the captain's intervention. He watches as the sisters huddle together, whispering urgently among themselves. After a moment, Jada steps forward. We will hear what your captain has to say, she announces, her voice carrying a mix of authority and uncertainty. Captain Mitchell's voice returns, calm and measured. I propose we halt all aggressive actions and instead open a dialogue. It's clear there's more to this situation than initially apparent. Dr. Grant, can you confirm your safety and willingness to participate in negotiations? I'm safe, Captain, Joseph responds, his eyes never leaving the Tak sisters. And I believe negotiation is our best path forward. There's potential here for mutually beneficial cooperation. The captain's relief is palpable in her voice. Understood, Doctor. Tak visitors, are you willing to engage in peaceful discussions? Jada hesitates, her gaze darting between her sisters and Joseph. It's Lumi who steps forward, her eyes locked on Joseph. We are willing to talk, she says, her voice soft but firm. With those words, the atmosphere in the lab shifts palpably. The energy barrier surrounding the room flickers and disappears, signaling the start of a new phase in this interstellar encounter. As tensions ease, Joseph finds himself at the center of a flurry of activity. He's escorted out of the lab, joined by Lumi, who insists on accompanying him. The other sisters follow, their earlier aggression replaced by a cautious curiosity. They're led to a conference room where Captain Mitchell awaits, flanked by Security Chief Rodriguez and Dr. Emily Sato, the ship's chief medical officer. The captain's face is a mask of professional calm, but Joseph can see the strain in her eyes. Welcome, Captain Mitchell says, gesturing to the seats around the table. Let's begin by discussing the real reason for your visit to our ship. As they settle into their seats, Joseph finds himself seated between Lumi and Dr. Sato. He can feel the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders, knowing that his insights and actions in the coming moments could shape the future of human Tak relations. Jada, taking the lead for her sisters, begins to explain their situation. Our species is facing a crisis, she admits, her voice tinged with a vulnerability that surprises Joseph. Generations of selective breeding for telepathic ability have led to genetic instability. We're here because human genetic diversity might hold the key to our survival. Captain Mitchell leans forward, her eyes sharp with interest. And you thought the best approach was to forcibly board our ship and experiment on our crew? Zoe, the youngest sister, speaks up, her voice filled with a mixture of shame and defiance. We were desperate. Our parents, the leaders of the High Council, they don't understand the urgency of our situation. We took matters into our own hands. Dr. Sato interjects, her scientific curiosity piqued. The genetic diversity angle is fascinating. I'd be very interested in studying the specifics of your condition. As the discussion unfolds, Joseph finds his mind racing with possibilities. He turns to Captain Mitchell, an idea forming. Captain, what if we propose a collaborative research initiative, a joint effort between humans and Tak to address their genetic crisis and advance our understanding of both species? The captain considers this for a moment, her eyes scanning the room. It's an intriguing proposal, Dr. Grant, but we need to consider the broader implications and potential risks. Before anyone can respond, an urgent message comes through the ship's communication system. Captain, a voice reports, we've detected a large Tak vessel entering the solar system. It's hailing us. The atmosphere in the room immediately tenses. Kira, who has been quiet until now, stands up. It's our parents, she says, her voice a mix of dread and resignation. The High Council must have discovered our unauthorized mission. Captain Mitchell's posture straightens, her face set with commitment. It seems our time for negotiation has just become limited, she says, her voice carrying the weight of command. We need to reach an agreement quickly, or we may find ourselves in a far more complex diplomatic situation. Joseph looks around the room, seeing the anxiety on both human and Tak faces. He realizes that the next few moments could determine not just the outcome of this encounter, but potentially the future of both species. As the tension builds, Joseph catches Lumi's eye. There's a silent understanding between them, a shared hope for a peaceful resolution. He takes a deep breath, knowing that his next words could shape the course of interstellar relations. Captain, he says, his voice steady despite the pressure, I believe I have a proposal that could satisfy both sides and potentially avert a conflict with the approaching Tak vessel. All eyes turn to Joseph as he prepares to outline his plan. The fate of two species hanging in the balance. The conference room falls silent, the only sound the distant hum of the ship's engines and the collective breath of humans and aliens alike, waiting to hear what could be the key to averting an interstellar crisis. Crisis, Joseph says, his mind racing with possibilities. He turns to Captain Mitchell, his eyes bright with commitment. Captain, I believe I have a proposal that could satisfy both sides and potentially avert a conflict with the approaching Tak vessel. The captain nods, her expression a mixture of curiosity and caution. Go on, Dr. Grant. Joseph takes a deep breath, aware that his next words could shape the course of interstellar relations. I propose we invite the Tak High Council to join us in a collaborative research initiative. We can offer our expertise in genetic diversity to help address their crisis, while they can share their advanced technology with us. It's a win-win situation that could foster long-term cooperation between our species. Captain Mitchell considers this for a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. It's a bold proposal, Doctor, but how do we ensure our own safety and interests are protected? Before Joseph can respond, the ship's communication system crackles to life once more. Captain, a voice reports urgently, the Tak vessel is requesting permission to dock. They're insisting on an immediate meeting. The tension in the room ratchets up a notch. Captain Mitchell straightens, her heart made with perseverance. It seems we're out of time for debate. Dr. Grant, your proposal is our best option. Let's hope it's enough to prevent an interstellar incident. Within minutes, the Celestial Voyager's docking bay is a flurry of activity. Joseph, Captain Mitchell, and the Tak sisters stand at attention as the airlock hisses open, revealing the imposing figures of the Tak High Council members. The alien leaders stride forward, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with impossibly strong emotion. Joseph's eyes widen as he takes in the intricate patterns swirling across their bodies, a living testament to the complexity of Tok biology. The lead council member, a tall, willowy figure with piercing silver eyes, steps forward. "I am High Counselor Zara," she announces, her voice resonating with authority. "We demand an explanation for this unauthorized mission and the detention of our daughters." Captain Mitchell steps forward, her posture straight and professional. "High Counselor, I am Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Celestial Voyager. We apologize for any misunderstanding. Your daughters were not detained. They boarded our ship of their own volition. We have a proposal that we believe will benefit both our species." Zara's eyes narrow, her skin flickering with skepticism. "Speak quickly, human. Our patience wears thin." Joseph steps forward, feeling the weight of two civilizations on his shoulders. "High Counselor, we've discovered the true reason for your daughter's mission. We understand the genetic crisis your species faces, and we want to help." He outlines his proposal for a joint research initiative, watching as the Tok leader's expressions shift from suspicion to intrigue. As he speaks, Joseph notices Lumi watching him, her eyes shining with admiration and something deeper that he can't quite name. When Joseph finishes, there's a moment of tense silence. Then, to everyone's surprise, Zara's stern expression softens. "Your proposal is intriguing," she admits. "Perhaps we have underestimated the potential of human ingenuity." The next few hours pass in a whirlwind of negotiations and planning. As the details are hammered out, Joseph finds himself working closely with Lumi, their minds in perfect sync as they brainstorm research methodologies. Before he knows it, Joseph and his team are boarding the Tok vessel, a sleek, organic-looking ship that seems to pulse with life. As they step inside, Joseph's breath catches in his throat. The interior is a marvel of advanced technology, with pulsating bioluminescent walls and gravity-defying architecture that defies his understanding of physics. "It's beautiful," he murmurs, awestruck. Lumi smiles, her skin glowing with pride. "Wait until you see our laboratories," she says, gently taking his arm to guide him. As they move deeper into the ship, Joseph realizes that this cultural exchange will be just as significant as the scientific collaboration. He watches as Dr. Emily Sato's eyes light up at the sight of the Tok Medical Bay, while Security Chief Rodriguez examines the ship's defenses with professional interest. The Tok High Council wastes no time in assigning roles to the five sisters. Jada, the eldest, is appointed as the primary liaison between the council and the human team. Lumi, to Joseph's secret delight, is tasked with working directly alongside him on the genetic research. As the other sisters receive their assignments, Kira to study human physiology, Naya to analyze genetic compatibility, and Zoe as a cultural attaché, Joseph can't help but feel a surge of excitement. They're on the brink of something revolutionary, a collaboration that could change the course of both their species. As they settle into their new roles, Joseph and Lumi find themselves spending long hours together in the Tok laboratories. The advanced equipment and alien methodology present a steep learning curve, but Joseph throws himself into the work with enthusiasm. "This is incredible," he says one day, examining a holographic representation of Tok DNA. "The way your genetic structure interacts with your telepathic abilities is unlike anything we've ever seen." Lumi leans in close, her presence sending a subtle shiver down Joseph's spine. "And your human genetic diversity is equally fascinating," she replies, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Tell me, Joseph, what is it like to live without telepathy?" Their conversations often drift from professional to personal, with Lumi's insatiable curiosity about human culture matched only by Joseph's fascination with Tok society. As days turn into weeks, Joseph finds himself looking forward to these moments, cherishing the growing bond between them. However, not everyone views their closeness with approval. Joseph notices Jada watching them with narrowed eyes, her skin flickering with what he's learned to recognize as jealousy. The eldest sister begins to use her position as liaison to interfere with their work, assigning them to separate tasks and limiting their time together. As tensions simmer beneath the surface, Dr. Emily Sato makes a breakthrough. I think I've identified the root of the Tok genetic crisis, she announces during a team meeting. Their advanced telepathic abilities, while impressive, have led to a dangerous lack of genetic diversity over generations. This discovery opens up new avenues for research, with the human team proposing to introduce carefully selected human genetic markers to help stabilize the Tok genome. The proposal creates a buzz of excitement among both teams, but it also raises new questions and concerns. As Joseph and Lumi work tirelessly on this new approach, they find themselves growing closer than ever. Late one night, as they pore over data together, Lumi suddenly looks up at Joseph, her eyes filled with an emotion he can't quite decipher. "Joseph," she says softly, "I think we're on the verge of something incredible, not just for our research, but for us." Before Joseph can respond, an alarm blares through the lab. An urgent message comes through. There's been an accident in one of the other research areas. As they rush to respond, Joseph's mind races with the implications of Lumi's words and the challenges that lie ahead. The future of human-Tok relations hangs in the balance, and Joseph knows that every decision, every breakthrough, and every misstep could have far-reaching consequences. As he follows Lumi out of the lab, he can't shake the feeling that they're standing on the precipice of something much bigger than they ever imagined. The alarm blared through the lab, jolting Joseph and Lumi into action. They rushed out, following the urgent summons to the site of the accident. As they hurried through the pulsating corridors of the Tok vessel, Joseph's mind raced, torn between the immediate crisis and the weight of Lumi's words. Upon reaching the affected research area, they found a scene of controlled chaos. One of the experimental chambers had malfunctioned, releasing a surge of energy that had overloaded several systems. As the human and Tok teams worked together to contain the damage, Joseph couldn't help but notice the seamless coordination between the two species. In the aftermath of the incident, as the combined teams regrouped to assess the situation, Joseph found himself at the center of a heated debate. The accident had highlighted the potential risks of their cutting-edge research, prompting a reevaluation of their approach. "We need to push forward," Jada insisted, her skin flickering with intense patterns. "The genetic crisis won't wait for us to play it safe." Joseph shook his head, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "We can't rush this. The risks are too high." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the reaction to his next words. "I propose we temporarily suspend the hybrid project." The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembled group. The Tok sisters exchanged glances, their bioluminescent skin pulsing with a mix of emotions. Captain Mitchell, who had joined them to assess the situation, nodded approvingly at Joseph's caution. Jada stepped forward, her eyes locked on Joseph. "You don't understand the urgency of our situation," she said, her voice low and intense. "Let me show you." Before Joseph could react, Jada placed her hand on his temple. The world around him dissolved as he was plunged into a sea of alien consciousness. Colors, thoughts, and emotions swirled around him, overwhelming his senses. He felt the collective desperation of the Tok species, their fear of extinction, and their hope pinned on this collaboration. When Jada broke the connection, Joseph staggered, his heart pounding from the experience. The depth of the Tok's need hit him with renewed force, but it also strengthened his tenacity to find a solution that wouldn't compromise ethical boundaries. As the debate continued, Lumi approached Joseph, her expression a mix of concern and purpose. "There might be another way," she said softly. "Come with me." Lumi led Joseph to a secluded chamber, its walls pulsing with a soft, rhythmic light. "This is where we perform our most sacred ritual," she explained. "I want to share something with you, the practice of bioluminescent synchronization." As they stood facing each other, Lumi guided Joseph through the process. Their breathing synchronized, and Joseph watched in awe as Lumi's bioluminescent patterns began to shift and change. Slowly, he felt a strange sensation in his own skin, as if it were responding to Lumi's glow. The experience was intimate and profound, creating a connection between them that transcended words. When it was over, Joseph felt a deeper understanding of the Tok physiology and culture. Their moment of connection was interrupted by Dr. Emily Sato bursting into the room, her eyes wide with excitement. "Joseph, I've made a breakthrough," she exclaimed. "I've identified a unique protein in human DNA that could potentially stabilize the Tok-Tok genome without full hybridization." The news spread quickly, igniting a flurry of activity aboard the ship. The Tok-Tok High Council, intrigued by this new possibility, proposed a series of controlled experiments to test the integration of the human protein into Tok-Tok DNA. As the research team assembled to discuss the new direction, tension crackled in the air. Each of the Tok-Tok sisters volunteered to be the first test subject, their rivalry becoming increasingly apparent. "I'm the eldest. It's my right and duty to go first," Jada declared, her skin pulsing with tenacity. "My genetic makeup is the most compatible," Lumi countered, her eyes flicking to Joseph. The other sisters chimed in, each making their case. The argument escalated, threatening to derail the entire project. Joseph, seeing the potential for conflict, stepped in. "We can't make this decision based on volunteering," he said firmly. "We need to approach this scientifically. Dr. Sato and I will develop a screening protocol to identify the most suitable candidate based on genetic compatibility." As they began the screening process, Zoe, the youngest sister, approached Joseph with an ancient Tok-Tok text. "I've found something," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "There's a prophecy about the merging of two distant species to save our civilization. What if this is what it was referring to?" The revelation sent ripples through the Tok-Tok crew. Some saw it as a sign of destiny, while others expressed concern about mixing science with ancient prophecies. Amidst the growing tension, Captain Mitchell received an urgent communication from Earth's United Space Command. They had detected unusual energy signatures from the Tok-Tok vessel and demanded an explanation. "I'm coming aboard," Captain Mitchell informed Joseph. "We need to manage this situation carefully to avoid any misunderstandings that could lead to conflict." As Captain Mitchell's shuttle docked with the Tok-Tok vessel, Joseph stood at the airlock, acutely aware of the complexities surrounding him. The weight of scientific discovery, cultural exchange, and interspecies politics rested heavily on his shoulders. The captain strode into the ship, her expression grave. "Brief me on everything, Dr. Grant," she ordered. "We're walking a fine line here, and we can't afford any missteps." As Joseph began his explanation, he could feel the eyes of the Tok-Tok sisters on him. Lumi stood close by, a comforting presence, while Jada watched from a distance, her gaze intense. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but Joseph knew that the potential rewards, for both species, made it a risk worth taking. As Joseph finished briefing Captain Mitchell, an urgent message from Dr. Sato interrupted them. "We've completed the screening process," Dr. Sato announced, her voice tinged with excitement and apprehension. "Lumi has been identified as the most compatible candidate for the protein integration experiment." The news sent a ripple of tension through the assembled group. Jada's skin flickered with barely concealed anger, while Lumi's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. "Are you certain about this, Dr. Sato?" Captain Mitchell asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "The data is clear," Dr. Sato replied firmly. "Lumi's genetic makeup offers the highest probability of successful integration." Joseph felt a conflicting surge of emotions, professional excitement at the prospect of scientific breakthrough and personal concern for Lumi's safety. He turned to her, searching her eyes for any sign of hesitation. "Lumi, are you prepared for this? We can't be certain of the outcomes." Lumi stepped forward, her stance resolute. "I am ready, Joseph. For the sake of my people, I must do this." With the decision made, the team swung into action. The integration chamber was prepared, a sterile environment filled with a dizzying array of human and Tok-Tok technology. Joseph stood at the control panel, his fingers hovering over the activation sequence as Dr. Sato made the final adjustments. "Commencing integration process," Joseph announced, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his chest. As the procedure began, Lumi's body was enveloped in a shimmering field of energy. Her skin began to pulse with an intensity Joseph had never seen before, the colors shifting and swirling in mesmerizing patterns. Suddenly, Lumi's back arched, and she let out a silent scream. Joseph's heart raced as he monitored the readings. Her neural activity is off the charts, he reported, struggling to keep his voice calm. Dr. Sato's fingers flew over her console. The protein is integrating faster than we anticipated. Her telepathic centers are lighting up like a Christmas tree. Without warning, Joseph felt a presence in his mind. Lumi's thoughts and emotions crashed over him like a tidal wave. Images, sensations, and alien concepts flooded his consciousness. He staggered, gripping the edge of the console to steady himself. "Joseph," Captain Mitchell's voice sounded distant. "What's happening?" I can feel her," Joseph gasped. "Lumi's mind. It's connected to mine." As the integration process continued, the mental link between Joseph and Lumi intensified. He could sense her fear, her drive, and something else. A deep, profound connection that transcended their previous interactions. Finally, after what seemed like hours, the energy field dissipated. Lumi opened her eyes, her skin glowing with a newfound radiance. "It worked," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. The success of the experiment sent shockwaves through the Tok vessel. Word spread rapidly, and soon the corridors were buzzing with excitement and anticipation. The remaining sisters approached the science team, their skin flickering with urgent patterns. "We demand to undergo the procedure as well," Jada declared, her eyes fixed on Lumi with a mixture of envy and willpower. Before Joseph could respond, a wave of dizziness washed over him. He clutched his head, overwhelmed by a sudden influx of alien thoughts and emotions. Through his mental link with Lumi, he could sense the chaos unfolding throughout the ship. "Something's wrong," he managed to say. "The enhanced telepathic abilities, they're affecting the entire Tok crew." Captain Mitchell's comm unit crackled to life. "Captain, we're receiving reports of erratic behavior from multiple sections of the Tok vessel," a voice reported urgently. As the situation spiraled out of control, Joseph found himself torn between his duty as a scientist, his growing connection to Lumi, and the potential dangers facing both human and Tok crews. The corridors of the alien ship echoed with the sound of confusion and conflict, a cacophony of voices both spoken and telepathic. In the midst of the chaos, Zoe burst into the room, clutching an ancient Tok text. "The prophecy," she gasped, her skin pulsing with urgency. "It speaks of this moment, a time of chaos that must be overcome before true harmony can be achieved." Joseph's mind raced, trying to process the flood of information and sensations. Through his link with Lumi, he could feel the strain on the Tok social structure as long-buried secrets and suppressed emotions rose to the surface. Suddenly, Captain Mitchell's comm unit blared again. "Captain, we've detected multiple ships approaching our position. It's the United Space Command Fleet." The arrival of the human warships added a new layer of tension to the already volatile situation. Joseph knew that any misstep now could lead to a devastating conflict between the two species. As alarms blared and the Tok ship shuddered under the strain of its fracturing society, Joseph locked eyes with Lumi. In that moment, their mental connection deepened, revealing a shared understanding of the challenges they faced and the potential for a future that transcended the boundaries between their species. With the fate of two civilizations hanging in the balance, Joseph steeled himself for the difficult decisions that lay ahead. The protein integration experiment had opened a Pandora's box of possibilities and dangers, and now it was up to him to find a way to navigate the chaos and forge a path towards true cooperation between humans and Tok. Joseph's mind reeled as he tried to process the flood of information and sensations coursing through him. The mental link with Lumi pulsed with intensity, revealing the full scope of the chaos unfolding throughout the Tok vessel. Suddenly, Lumi's body convulsed, her skin erupting in a dazzling display of bioluminescence. Joseph rushed to her side, catching her as she stumbled. "Lumi, what's happening?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. Her eyes met his, glowing with an otherworldly light. "The changes, they're accelerating," she gasped. "I can feel everything." A wave of emotion washed over Joseph, not his own but Lumi's, projected through their mental connection. Fear, wonder, and an overwhelming sense of transformation threatened to drown out his own thoughts. Before he could respond, a commotion erupted in the corridor outside. Jada burst into the room, her skin pulsing with angry patterns. "You!" she snarled, pointing at Joseph. "This is your doing." Without warning, Jada lunged forward, her hands grasping at Joseph's temples. He felt a violent intrusion in his mind as Jada attempted to force a telepathic link. "No," Lumi cried out, her newly enhanced abilities manifesting in a burst of energy that pushed Jada back. The room descended into chaos as Kira and Naya rushed in, taking sides in the conflict. Kira positioned herself between Jada and Joseph, while Naya moved to support her eldest sister. "Stop this madness," Captain Mitchell's voice cut through the din. She stood in the doorway, her expression a mix of anger and concern. "We're under quarantine. No one leaves this ship until we get this situation under control." Dr. Sato pushed past the captain, her eyes wild with excitement. "Joseph, I've made a discovery," she said breathlessly. "Your genetic makeup. There's a compound that could stabilize the mutations, but extracting it would require—" Her words were cut short as alarms blared throughout the ship. The deck beneath their feet shuddered violently. "Captain," a voice crackled over the comm, "a group of Tok have taken control of key systems. They're led by a scientist named Vex. He's demanding we expand the integration experiment to all Tok immediately." Mitchell's face hardened. "Damn it, we've got a full-blown insurrection on our hands." As if on cue, the ship's internal communication system crackled to life. A cold, determined voice filled the air. "Attention humans and fellow Tok. I am Vex. The time for half measures is over. We stand on the brink of true evolution. All Tok will undergo the integration process. Those who resist will be persuaded." Joseph felt a chill run down his spine. He turned to Lumi, seeing his own fear reflected in her luminous eyes. Zoe burst into the room, clutching an ancient text. "The prophecy," she exclaimed. "I found more details. There's a ritual, a way to harness the human Tok bond. It could bring balance, stop this madness." Joseph listened intently as Zoe explained the ritual, his heart racing. A willing human and Tok pair, forming a deep biological and psychological connection. A living bridge between species. He locked eyes with Lumi, understanding passing between them without words. They both knew the risks, the potential loss of their individual identities. But faced with the alternative, "We'll do it," Joseph said firmly, taking Lumi's hand. "Whatever it takes to stop this conflict." Captain Mitchell opened her mouth to protest, but another violent shudder rocked the ship. Alarms blared with renewed urgency. "Multiple containment breaches," the panicked voice over the comm reported. "Mutated Tok are loose. They're changing, spreading their condition." Joseph's mind raced. There was no time to waste. He turned to Dr. Sato. "Prepare whatever you need for this ritual. We need to act now." As they rushed to gather the necessary equipment, Joseph felt Lumi's presence in his mind, a beacon of calm in the storm of chaos around them. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The ship trembled again, more violently this time. Through the viewport, Joseph caught a glimpse of the celestial Voyager, its weapon systems powering up. Beyond it, the sleek shapes of the United Space Command fleet loomed menacingly. With a final shared look of dedication, Joseph and Lumi stepped into the ritual chamber, the fate of two species resting on their shoulders. Shoulders. The moment they stepped into the ritual chamber, an electric tension filled the air. Joseph's heart raced as he felt Lumi's presence in his mind grow stronger, their thoughts intertwining until he could barely distinguish where his consciousness ended and hers began. But they had no time to marvel at their deepening connection. The ship shuddered violently, nearly knocking them off their feet. Through their mental link, Joseph sensed a surge of fear and confusion rippling through the Tok population. "We need to hurry," Lumi said, her voice barely above a whisper. Her skin pulsed with an almost blinding intensity, the bioluminescent patterns swirling in hypnotic waves. As they prepared for the ancient ritual, chaos erupted throughout the vessel. Alarms blared, their shrill cries piercing through the din of shouting voices and running feet. Joseph could feel the fear and anger of the Tok through his link with Lumi, their emotions a tempest threatening to overwhelm him. Suddenly, the door to the ritual chamber burst open. Jada stormed in, her eyes wild with a mix of jealousy and desperation. "No!" she screamed, lunging toward Joseph. "It should be me!" Kira and Naya rushed in after her, grabbing their sister's arms and trying to pull her back. "Jada, stop this madness," Kira pleaded, her skin flickering with distress. Joseph stumbled backward, his heart pounding from Jada's attempted intrusion. He felt Lumi's protective presence wrap around his consciousness, shielding him from the assault. "We don't have time for this," Dr. Sato snapped, pushing past the struggling sisters. She carried a small vial filled with a glowing liquid. "Joseph, Lumi, we need to start now. The compound I synthesized from your genetic material isn't enough for everyone, but it might be enough to stabilize you both during the ritual." As Dr. Sato spoke, another violent tremor shook the ship. Sparks showered from a nearby control panel, filling the air with the acrid smell of burning circuitry. Captain Mitchell's voice crackled over the ship's comm system, strained and urgent. "Joseph, we've got a situation. Vex and his followers have taken control of the main lab. They're threatening to forcibly integrate the entire Tuktak population. We need that ritual completed now." Joseph locked eyes with Lumi, seeing his own purpose reflected in her luminous gaze. Without a word, they moved to the center of the chamber, where an intricate pattern had been etched into the floor. Dr. Sato quickly administered the stabilizing compound, her hands steady despite the chaos around them. As the liquid entered their bodies, Joseph felt a strange warmth spread through his veins. "Remember," Zoe said, her voice trembling slightly as she clutched the ancient text, "the ritual requires a complete merging of minds and bodies. You must open yourselves fully to each other." Joseph nodded, taking a deep breath. He reached out and took Lumi's hands in his own, marveling at how natural it felt despite their alien anatomies. As they began the ritual, Joseph felt the boundaries of his self begin to dissolve. Lumi's thoughts and memories flowed into him, and he could sense his own doing the same for her. Their separate consciousnesses blurred, merging into something entirely new. The room around them seemed to fade away, replaced by a swirling vortex of light and sensation. Joseph could feel every cell in his body vibrating with energy, resonating with Lumi's in perfect harmony. Distantly, he was aware of commotion outside the ritual chamber. The sounds of battle echoed through the ship as Security Chief Rodriguez and his team engaged Vex's followers. But all of that seemed insignificant compared to the profound connection he now shared with Lumi. As the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light erupted from their joined forms. Joseph felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. It coursed through him, through Lumi, and then outward in an expanding wave of energy. The pulse swept through the ship, temporarily disabling all technology in its path. In the sudden darkness that followed, Joseph and Lumi's merged form glowed with an otherworldly radiance, casting long shadows across the stunned faces of those around them. For a moment, everything was still. Then, as emergency power slowly returned, Joseph became aware of changes rippling through the Tuktak population. Through his expanded consciousness, he could sense the unstable mutations receding, the chaotic energies that had threatened to tear their society apart now settling into a new equilibrium. But even as calm began to spread through the ship, Joseph realized that something fundamental had changed within himself and Lumi. Their individual selves had not fully returned. Instead, they remained in a state of partial merger, their thoughts and feelings inextricably linked. As the implications of what had occurred began to sink in, Joseph felt a mixture of awe and trepidation. He and Lumi had become something entirely new, a living bridge between their species. But what would this mean for their future and for the future of human-Tuktak relations? Before he could ponder this further, the door to the ritual chamber slid open. Captain Mitchell entered, her face a mask of concern and relief. Behind her, Joseph could see members of the Tuktak High Council and several stern-faced officers from the United Space Command Fleet. "Joseph," Captain Mitchell said, her voice tinged with uncertainty as she took in his altered appearance. "We need to talk. The entire fleet saw that energy pulse. They're demanding answers, and frankly, so am I." Joseph opened his mouth to respond, but it was Lumi's voice that emerged, layered with his own in an unsettling harmony. "We are here to explain," they said together. "But first there is much to be done. The future of both our peoples hangs in the balance." As the assembled leaders stared at them in a mixture of awe and apprehension, Joseph Lumi knew that their journey was nowhere near the end. The ritual had averted immediate disaster, but the true challenges and opportunities of their unprecedented union were only just beginning. As the assembled leaders stared at them in a mixture of awe and apprehension, Joseph Lumi knew that their journey was nowhere near its end. The ritual had averted immediate disaster, but the true challenges and opportunities of their unprecedented union were only just beginning. In the days that followed, Joseph and Lumi's merged form became the focal point of intense scientific and diplomatic interest. Dr. Emily Sato worked tirelessly, her eyes bloodshot from countless hours of observation and analysis. She discovered that their hybrid state, which they had come to call Josumi, was far from stable. During one of her examinations, Josumi's form began to flicker and distort. Joseph's voice emerged, distinct from Lumi's, for the first time since the ritual. "Dr. Sato," he gasped, his words urgent and strained. "The knowledge, it's overwhelming. We can access the collective memory of the Tak, but it's slipping away." Lumi's voice joined his, creating an unsettling harmony. "We're losing control. The separation, it's happening more frequently, but for shorter periods." Dr. Sato's fingers flew across her datapad, recording every word. "Can you tell me more about this knowledge? Anything that might help us understand your condition or the Tak genetic crisis?" Joseph's consciousness seemed to strain against an invisible force. "There are solutions, buried deep in their history, but we can't hold on to it for long." As quickly as it had begun, the separation ended. Josumi's form stabilized, leaving Dr. Sato with a wealth of new data and a growing sense of urgency. Captain Sarah Mitchell reviewed Dr. Sato's findings with a furrowed brow. The potential breakthrough was clear, but so were the risks. She activated the ship's comm system. "This is Captain Mitchell. I'm ordering the immediate establishment of a joint human Tak research team. Our primary objective is to stabilize Josumi's condition and extract the information within their shared consciousness. Time is of the essence." The celestial Voyager buzzed with activity as the new team assembled. Human scientists worked side by side with Tak researchers, their earlier mistrust giving way to a shared sense of purpose. Meanwhile, the Tak High Council underwent a radical transformation. The stabilizing effects of the ritual had shifted the balance of power, with moderate voices gaining prominence. Zoe, the youngest of the sisters, found herself thrust into a pivotal role. In a meeting chamber bathed in the soft glow of bioluminescent panels, Zoe addressed the council. "We stand at a crossroads," she said, her voice steady despite her youth. "The humans have shown us a path forward, one that could lead to the salvation of our species. We must embrace this opportunity for cooperation." Her words were met with murmurs of agreement, a far cry from the hostility that had dominated previous sessions. As the meeting concluded, Zoe found herself approached by a familiar figure, Vex, the former radical leader. Vex's skin pulsed with complex patterns of remorse and hope. "I was wrong," he said simply. "What I witnessed during the ritual, it changed everything. I want to help. My knowledge of our biology might be useful to Dr. Sato's team." Zoe nodded, sensing the sincerity in his words. "Come with me," she said. "Your expertise could be crucial." As Vex joined the research efforts, the United Space Command grew increasingly wary. Admiral Xander Graves arrived on the Celestial Voyager, his weathered face a mask of diplomatic neutrality. "Captain Mitchell," he said, shaking her hand firmly, "I'm here to ensure that Earth's interests are protected in this unique situation." Mitchell met his gaze evenly. "Of course, Admiral. We're all working towards the same goal here, a peaceful and mutually beneficial resolution." In the lab, Dr. Sato and her team worked around the clock. Josumi's condition continued to evolve, presenting new challenges and opportunities. During one particularly intense merged state, Josumi reached out and interfaced directly with both human and Tak computer systems simultaneously. The lab erupted in a flurry of activity as data streamed across multiple screens. "This is incredible," Dr. Sato breathed, her fingers flying across her console. "They're bridging the gap between our technologies, translating complex algorithms in real time." Admiral Graves watched the display with a mixture of awe and concern. "The potential applications of this ability are significant," he said carefully. "We'll need to establish clear protocols for its use." As the research progressed, the remaining Tok sisters found new purpose. Jada, humbled by recent events, approached Zoe with an offer to assist in diplomatic efforts. Kira and Naya focused their energies on helping their fellow Tok adapt to the rapid changes in their society. A breakthrough came when Dr. Sato, working closely with Vex and the joint team, developed a method to stabilize Yosumi's fluctuating state. They created a controlled environment that mimicked the energy field generated during the original ritual. When Yosumi entered the chamber, the effect was immediate. The constant flux between merged and separated states ceased, replaced by a calm, controlled shift. Joseph and Lumi stood apart, then merged at will, their movements fluid and natural. "It worked," Joseph said, his voice filled with wonder. He reached out, taking Lumi's hand. Their skin glowed where they touched, a visual representation of their unique bond. Lumi nodded, her luminous eyes bright with excitement. "We can control it now, and the knowledge. It's all here, waiting to be shared." As Joseph and Lumi began the painstaking process of relaying the Tok collective knowledge, an unexpected development caught everyone by surprise. Other Tok individuals on the ship started experiencing spontaneous genetic stabilization. Dr. Sato's team scrambled to document and understand the phenomenon. "It appears that Josumi's stabilized hybrid form is acting as a catalyst," she explained to Captain Mitchell and Admiral Graves. "The presence of merged human and Tok DNA seems to be triggering a natural correction in the Tok genetic code." The implications of this discovery sent shockwaves through both human and Tok communities. Admiral Graves, recognizing the historic nature of the situation, made a bold proposal. "We need a permanent joint scientific outpost," he said, "a neutral ground where we can continue this collaboration and cultural exchange." As plans for the outpost took shape, preparations began for a historic summit between human and Tok leaders. Joseph and Lumi, now able to shift between their individual and merged states at will, prepared to present their unique perspective on the future of interspecies relations. The celestial Voyager hummed with anticipation as delegates from Earth and the Tok homeworld arrived. In their quarters, Joseph and Lumi stood before a mirror, marveling at their ability to merge and separate. "Are you ready for this?" Joseph asked, his reflection shimmering as Lumi's form overlapped with his own. Lumi's skin pulsed with drive. "Together, we can show them the potential of what we've become. This is just the beginning." As they made their way to the conference hall, the weight of two species' futures rested on their shoulders. The door slid open, revealing a room filled with the most influential humans and Tok in the galaxy. All eyes turned to Joseph and Lumi as they entered, ready to usher in a new era of interstellar cooperation. Cooperation. As Joseph and Lumi entered the conference hall, the assembled delegates fell silent, their eyes fixed on the unique pair. The air crackled with anticipation, but beneath the surface, an undercurrent of tension threatened to upend the delicate balance they had achieved. Dr. Emily Sato burst into the room, her lab coat askew and her eyes wide with urgency. "Captain Mitchell, Admiral Graves, we have a problem," she announced, her voice cutting through the expectant silence. All heads turned toward the scientist as she approached the central podium. Joseph and Lumi exchanged a concerned glance, their forms shimmering slightly as they instinctively drew closer together. "The stabilization effect," Dr. Sato continued, her fingers flying across her datapad. "It's temporary. We're seeing signs of genetic regression in the Tok population." A murmur of alarm rippled through the assembled delegates. Zoe, the young Tok council member, stepped forward, her skin pulsing with complex patterns of fear and commitment. "What does this mean for our people, Dr. Sato?" The doctor's expression was grim. "Without a more permanent solution, the genetic instability will continue to progress. We're running out of time." Admiral Graves's weathered face hardened. This changes everything. We can't move forward with any agreements until we address this new threat. As the room erupted into worried discussions, Joseph felt a familiar pull. He glanced at Lumi, seeing the same realization in her luminous eyes. Without a word, they joined hands, their forms merging seamlessly into the hybrid Josumi. "We have a proposal," Jasumi's harmonized voice rang out, silencing the chaotic room. All eyes turned to the glowing figure. "A way to create a permanent solution for the Tok genetic crisis." Captain Mitchell leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "Go on, Josumi. What's your idea?" Josumi took a deep breath, their merged consciousness processing the gravity of what they were about to suggest. "We propose the creation of hybrid offspring, children born of both human and Tok DNA. These hybrids would serve as living stabilizers for the Tok population." The room exploded into a cacophony of voices. Admiral Graves shot to his feet, his face flushed. "Out of the question. We can't risk creating a new species that could pose a threat to humanity." Zoe's voice cut through the noise, her tone firm despite her youth. "This could be our only chance for survival. We must consider all options." As the debate intensified, Captain Mitchell raised her hands, calling for order. "We need a compromise," she said, her voice steady and authoritative. "I propose a pilot program, a small group of volunteers carefully monitored. We can study the effects without committing to full-scale implementation." The suggestion seemed to calm the room somewhat, but tensions remained high. Josumi felt the strain of maintaining their merged form, a reflection of the conflict surrounding them. Dr. Sato nodded, already formulating plans. "We'll need to develop a new protocol for creating human Tok hybrid embryos. It will be complex, but with Josumi's unique DNA as a template, I believe it's possible." As the discussion continued, the four Tok sisters, Jada, Kira, Naya, and Zoe, exchanged meaningful glances. Jada stepped forward, her skin shimmering with willpower. "We volunteered to be part of this pilot program." Her sisters nodded in agreement, their decision driven by a mix of scientific curiosity and a deep-seated desire to save their species. Yusmi felt a twinge of unease at the personal implications of their choice. Admiral Graves scowled, clearly unhappy with the turn of events. "If we're going to do this, we need strict security measures. I want a specialized containment facility built on the Celestial Voyager to house these hybrids." Captain Mitchell nodded, recognizing the need for caution. "Agreed. Dr. Sato, how quickly can you begin the process?" The scientist's fingers flew across her datapad. "With Josumi's assistance and the voluntary participation of the Tok sisters, we can start immediately. But I must stress the experimental nature of this procedure. We're in uncharted territory." As the meeting adjourned and preparations for the pilot program began in earnest, Josumi felt the weight of their role in these momentous events. They separated back into Joseph and Lumi, both feeling drained from the extended merger. "Anotawin, are we doing the right thing?" Joseph asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Lumi's skin pulsed with a complex pattern of uncertainty and hope. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I believe it's our best chance." In the days that followed, the Celestial Voyager became a hive of activity. Dr. Sato and her team worked around the clock, combining advanced genetic engineering techniques with the unique properties of Yosumi's hybrid DNA. The process was painstaking, requiring constant adjustments and monitoring. Joseph and Lumi found themselves constantly shifting between their individual and merged states, providing critical insights into the hybrid experience. But the frequent transitions began to take their toll, leaving them physically and mentally exhausted. As the first batch of hybrid embryos was successfully created and placed in artificial gestation chambers, a sense of cautious optimism spread through the ship. The chambers, marvels of combined human and Tok technology, allowed for accelerated growth and real-time monitoring. Admiral Graves oversaw the construction of the containment facility, his face a mask of iron will. Meanwhile, news of the hybrid program leaked to Earth, sparking widespread controversy and debate. As the embryos developed at an astonishing rate, Joseph and Lumi stood before the gestation chambers, their hands intertwined. They watched in awe as the tiny forms within grew, exhibiting a perfect blend of human and Tok traits. "They're beautiful," Lumi whispered, her skin pulsing with a soft, warm light. Joseph nodded, a mix of emotions swirling within him. "And terrifying," he added softly. "What have we created?" As if in response to his question, one of the embryos shifted, its tiny hand pressing against the chamber wall. The moment was both miraculous and unsettling, a glimpse into an uncertain future that they had set in motion. With the imminent birth of the first hybrid offspring looming on the horizon, the celestial voyager buzzed with anticipation and anxiety. The fate of two species hung in the balance, and the upcoming summit would determine the course of their shared future. Joseph and Lumi, feeling the strain of their unique position, retreated to their quarters. As they attempted to merge into Yosumi, they found the process more difficult than ever before. Their forms flickered and wavered, reflecting the growing instability of their bond. "Something's wrong," Joseph gasped, struggling to maintain the connection. Lumi's voice echoed in his mind, tinged with fear. "We're losing control. Our bond. It's weakening." As they finally managed to stabilize their merged form, Yosumi realized that their own stability was crucial to the success of the hybrid program. They had to find a way to strengthen their connection, not just for themselves, but for the future of both their species. The countdown to the birth of the first hybrids continued, each passing moment bringing them closer to a new era in human-Tok relations. The corridors of the celestial voyager hummed with tension and excitement, as two civilizations stood on the brink of an unprecedented change. Breakthrough. As Joseph and Lumi grappled with their unstable bond, the moment they had been working towards finally arrived. The gestation chambers hissed open, releasing a soft mist into the air. Dr. Sato and her team stood at the ready, their eyes fixed on the tiny forms emerging from the artificial wombs. The room fell silent as the first hybrid infant took its first breath, letting out a cry that was neither entirely human nor Tok. Joseph and Lumi, hand in hand, approached the chamber. Their eyes widened as they took in the sight of the newborn. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent glow, reminiscent of Tok bioluminescence, but with subtle human-like pigmentation. The infant's eyes, initially human in appearance, shifted to the large luminous orbs characteristic of the Tok. "They're incredible," Joseph whispered, his voice filled with awe. Lumi's skin pulsed with a complex pattern of emotions. "A perfect blend," she agreed. Dr. Sato carefully lifted the infant, her trained hands supporting its delicate form. "Initial readings show stable vital sign," she announced, her voice steady despite the momentous occasion. "We'll need to conduct a full battery of tests to assess their overall health and development." As the medical team bustled around the newborns, Joseph and Lumi found themselves drawn to the infants. They watched in fascination as the hybrids grew at an astonishing rate, reaching toddler-equivalent stages within days. While observing the rapid development of the hybrid children, Joseph felt a familiar pull towards Lumi. Without thinking, they joined hands, their forms beginning to merge. To their surprise, the process felt smoother than it had in weeks. "The hybrids," Yosumi's harmonized voice spoke softly. "Their presence, it's stabilizing us." Dr. Sato, overhearing the comment, quickly made notes on her datapad. "Fascinating. The hybrids seem to be having a calming effect on your merged form. This could provide valuable insights into the nature of your bond." As the days passed, the celestial voyager transformed into a hub of intense research and activity. Admiral Graves, initially skeptical of the hybrid program, found himself reassessing his position. He strode through the newly expanded containment facility, his sharp eyes taking in every detail. "We need to increase security protocols," he declared to Captain Mitchell, who walked beside him. "The potential benefits of this program are becoming clear, but we can't risk any unauthorized access to the hybrids." Captain Mitchell nodded in agreement. "I'll have the engineering team implement additional safeguards immediately." In another section of the ship, the Tok sisters, Jada, Kira, Naya, and Zoe, prepared for the next phase of the experiment. They lay on biobeds, their skin pulsing with a mix of anticipation and nervousness, as Dr. Sato's team began the implantation process for the second batch of hybrid embryos. Zoe, the youngest of the sisters, reached out to grasp Jada's hand. "Soon we'll have our own hybrid offspring," she said, her voice filled with wonder. Jada's skin flickered with agreement. "A new chapter for our people," she replied. As news of the successful hybrid birth spread, the celestial Voyager became a hive of diplomatic activity. Representatives from Earth and the Tok homeworld arrived, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Joseph and Lumi found themselves at the center of attention, constantly shifting between their individual and merged forms to provide insights into the hybrid experience. The strain of their fluctuating bond caused great concern on them. During a rare moment of privacy, Joseph turned to Lumi, his expression serious. "We need to do something about our instability," he said, "for the sake of the program and for ourselves." Lumi's skin pulsed in agreement. Dr. Sato mentioned a procedure. "It's risky, but it might permanently stabilize our Jasumi form." Joseph nodded, a mix of grit and fear in his eyes. "Let's do it, before the summit." As they made their decision, the first group of hybrid children continued to astound researchers with their rapid development and remarkable abilities. In one of the educational facilities, a young hybrid effortlessly interfaced with both human and Tok computer systems, bridging the technological gap between the two species. Dr. Sato watched the display with growing excitement. "Their capacity to integrate both human and Tok knowledge is unprecedented," she remarked to Captain Mitchell. "This could revolutionize our approach to interspecies collaboration." Meanwhile, in the main research laboratory, a team of scientists huddled around a holographic display. Dr. Sato pointed to a swirling pattern of energy surrounding a hybrid child. "We've identified a unique bioelectromagnetic field emitted by the hybrids," she explained to the assembled group. "It appears to interact with Tok physiology, temporarily halting the genetic regression." The implications of this discovery sent ripples of excitement through the research team. As they delved deeper into the data, Joseph and Lumi prepared for their risky procedure, hoping to emerge as living proof of successful human Tok integration. The Celestial Voyager, now a floating city of interspecies collaboration, continued its orbit as the date of the summit drew near. The fate of two species hung in the balance, with the hybrid program at the center of it all. As Joseph and Lumi entered the medical bay for their life-altering procedure, the ship buzzed with anticipation of the challenges and possibilities that lay ahead. The medical bay doors hissed open as Joseph and Lumi entered, their hands clasped tightly together. Dr. Sato greeted them with a nod, her face a mask of concentration as she made final adjustments to the specialized chamber before them. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Joseph and Lumi exchanged a glance, their eyes conveying a mix of commitment and apprehension. "We are," they replied in unison. As they stepped into the chamber, the air around them hummed with energy. The procedure began, and a soft glow emanated from their bodies, growing in intensity with each passing moment. Joseph felt a tingling sensation spread through his limbs, while Lumi's skin pulsed with rapid patterns of light. Suddenly, the glow intensified, becoming a blinding white light that filled the chamber and spilled out into the corridors of the Celestial Voyager. The ship's systems flickered momentarily as the energy surge rippled through its circuitry. In the hybrid containment area, the unexpected pulse of energy had an astonishing effect. The young hybrid children, who had been developing at an accelerated rate, suddenly experienced a massive growth spurt. Within hours, their bodies matured into young adulthood, their minds expanding to encompass the combined knowledge of both human and Tok cultures. As alarms blared throughout the ship, Captain Mitchell rushed to the bridge, his face etched with concern. "Report!" he barked as he entered. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the ship," a crew member responded, fingers flying over the control panel. "And there's something happening in the hybrid containment area." Before Captain Mitchell could respond, the comm system crackled to life. "Captain," Dr. Sato's voice came through, tinged with excitement and disbelief. "You need to see this." In the medical bay, the stabilization chamber opened with a hiss of escaping vapor. As the mist cleared, a single figure emerged, Josumi, now a perfect blend of human and Tok physiologies. Their skin shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence, and their eyes held a depth of wisdom that seemed to transcend both species. "It worked," Yasumi said, their voice a harmonious blend of Joseph and Lumi's. "We are one." As Yasumi acclimated to their new form, the ship buzzed with activity. The newly matured hybrid children, now young adults, quickly grasped the significance of their accelerated growth. They gathered in the main conference room, their faces a mixture of drive and curiosity. "We want to help," one of the hybrids, a young woman with shimmering skin and piercing eyes, addressed Captain Mitchell. "We understand the complexities of both human and Tok-Tok cultures. Let us assist with the summit." Captain Mitchell, still reeling from the rapid turn of events, nodded in agreement. "Very well. We'll need all the help we can get." As delegates from Earth, the Tok-Tok homeworld, and other alien species began to arrive, tensions aboard the celestial Voyager reached a fever pitch. Security Chief Marcus Rodriguez coordinated with Admiral Graves to implement stringent security measures, his team on high alert for any signs of trouble. The summit began in the ship's Grand Assembly Hall, with representatives from various factions taking their seats. The air crackled with unspoken hostility as human and Tok-Tok delegates eyed each other warily. As the first speaker took the podium, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A group of protesters, both human and Tok-Tok, attempted to force their way into the hall, shouting slogans against the hybrid program. "This is an abomination," a human protester yelled, his face contorted with anger. "You're playing God." A Tok-Tok demonstrator's skin flashed with patterns of disgust and fear. "Our species will be destroyed by this unholy union." Security forces quickly moved to contain the situation, but the disruption had already cast a pall over the proceedings. Admiral Graves stood, his face a mask of cold purpose. "We will not be intimidated by fearmongers and extremists," he declared, his voice ringing through the hall. "This summit will continue." As the debates resumed, covering the ethical implications and potential risks of the hybrid program, Josumi stood quietly at the back of the room, observing. They could sense the undercurrents of fear and hope that swirled through the assembly, understanding both perspectives in a way no one else could. Suddenly, a violent tremor shook the ship, sending delegates stumbling. Alarms blared as the lights flickered ominously. Captain Mitchell's voice came over the comm system, tight with tension. "We're under attack. All security personnel to your stations. This is not a drill." Chaos erupted in the assembly hall as delegates scrambled for safety. Security Chief Rodriguez and his team moved swiftly to secure the area, their weapons at the ready. In the ship's control room, displays lit up with warnings as systems began to fail. A group of extremists, a mix of humans and Tok-Tok working together in a twisted alliance, had launched a coordinated attack on the Celestial Voyager's vital systems. "They're trying to destroy the hybrid program," Captain Mitchell realized, his face grim, "and they're willing to take down the entire ship to do it." As security forces engaged the infiltrators in intense combat throughout the ship, Josumi felt a surge of purpose. They strode purposefully towards the nearest computer terminal, their hands moving with inhuman speed as they interfaced directly with the ship's systems. Josumi's eyes glowed with an inner light as they navigated through the ship's compromised defenses, their unique physiology allowing them to process information at an unprecedented rate. With a series of swift commands, they began to isolate and neutralize the extremist threat, restoring control to the ship's rightful crew. In the corridors, Security Chief Rodriguez and his team cornered the last of the infiltrators. "Stand down," he commanded, his weapon trained on the group of human and Tok-Tok extremists. For a moment, it seemed the standoff would end in violence. Then a wave of calm washed over the area as Josumi's influence spread through the ship's systems. The extremists, suddenly bereft of their anger and fear, lowered their weapons in confusion. As order was restored, Josumi made their way to the assembly hall. The delegates, still shaken from the attack, fell silent as Josumi took the podium. Their presence radiated a sense of tranquility and wisdom that seemed to fill the room. "Esteemed delegates," Josumi began, their harmonized voice carrying easily to every corner of the hall. "We stand at a crossroads of history. The events of today have shown us the dangers of fear and division, but they have also demonstrated the incredible potential that lies in unity. As Josumi spoke, sharing their vision of a future where humans and Tok Tok coexisted in harmony, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. Even the most skeptical delegates found themselves captivated by Josumi's words and the living proof of successful human-Tok Tok integration that stood before them. The Tok Tok sisters, Jada, Kira, Naya, and Zoe, stepped forward, their skin pulsing with patterns of excitement and hope. Each of them now carried hybrid embryos, their bodies a testament to the possibilities of the program. "We volunteered for this program out of scientific curiosity," Jada began, her voice strong and clear. "But what we've gained is so much more. We've found a new purpose, a new future for our people." As the sisters shared their experiences, the mature hybrid children demonstrated their unique abilities, effortlessly bridging communication gaps between different species and offering innovative solutions to long-standing interstellar conflicts. Admiral Graves, his earlier skepticism now replaced by cautious optimism, approached the Tok Tok High Council representative. "Perhaps," he said, his voice low but firm, "it's time we considered a more formal structure for this program." The Tok Tok representative's skin flickered with interest. "What do you propose, Admiral?" As discussions resumed with renewed vigor, the atmosphere aboard the Celestial Voyager had transformed. The fear and hostility that had marked the beginning of the summit had given way to a sense of cautious hope and possibility. In a quiet corner of the assembly hall, Yasumi stood with Captain Mitchell, watching as humans, Tok Tok, and representatives from other alien species engaged in animated discussions. "It's remarkable," Captain Mitchell mused, shaking his head in wonder. "A few hours ago, we were on the brink of disaster, and now—" Josumi nodded, their eyes reflecting the stars visible through the hall's panoramic windows. "This is just the beginning, Captain. The real work lies ahead." As the summit continued, the Celestial Voyager hummed with newfound energy and purpose. The ship, once a backdrop for conflict and uncertainty, had become a crucible of innovation and interspecies cooperation. The future, with all its challenges and possibilities, stretched out before them like the vast, star-filled expanse of space itself.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.